lived a very interior life. We're going to cover it now. He had a very hard time reaching out. That was always his thing. He said that I want to communicate. I want to talk with people and have them understand me, but I just keep killing them.
Then Ursula, he sounds like the Little Mermaid.
He's
That's
a
really
little
what
bit
it
like,
is. He needs to go confront his Ursula, and he needs to get his goddamn father back.
Little Mermaid 3.
To get his legs.
Little Mermaid 3. Ariel, she is now 6'9", 300 pounds.
Ooh, I love this one.
Heaving monster who's driving around looking for hitchhikers. And who did she pick up? Sebastian the crab.
Oh my god, I hate that Sebastian.
She's got Sebastian in the car, and he's like, hey, Sebastian, I just where you going? You going to Palo Alto? Yeah, you going to Palo Alto? Yeah, man, we going to Palo Alto. Yeah, that's cool. Huh? Why are you stuck up? Huh? You too good to talk to me? No, I just wanted to sing a song about being under the... I got this pot of water. Pot of water. And he starts boiling on a hot plate in the back seat.
Under the sea.
I'd love that movie.
Well, before we get into his childhood, I just want to make one caveat at the very beginning here. A lot of the information we have about Ed Kemper comes from Kemper himself, but it is worth noting that he gives conflicting information in different interviews. That is
why we'll be discussing Kemper's huge penis over and over and over again, because he brings it up relatively regularly.
No, he tells about 5 different stories.
Yeah. Yes. The difference is it isn't like a completely different story every time. The details are off. And he also gave a different testimony on the stand after he was caught than he did in his confession to police.
The man understands the journalistic idea of that the story is better than the truth.
Yeah, if you have the choice between the legend and the truth, go for the legend.
Yes.
That's the Brian Williams effect.
He's actually very good at narrative, honestly.
He's a very good storyteller.
Well, yeah, we'll get into the books on tape.
Oh, yeah. So, Edmund Emil Kemper III was born in...
They didn't try with that middle name very hard.
I think it's Emil.
No, it's Emil. Do you remember Dragnet? Remember the Dragnet movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Emil.
Why would I?
Yeah,
with
you
Dan
remember?
Aykroyd? Yeah, everyone remembers the Dragnet movie. Satanism was involved. Henry.
Yeah. How could you not love that? I remember the guy that was kind of the henchman. His name was Emil Scuzz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was spelled E-M-I-L. So I know.
Right, we got that.
Is great.
He was born in Burbank, California, middle child and the only son to Edmund Emil Kemper Jr., who came in at 6'8", and his wife Clarnell.
Yeah, Clarnell is an odd one.
Yeah.
You don't hear that name too often, and I don't ever want to hear it again.
No, because it's for show horses.
It sounds like a way to get popcorn from the back of your Clarnell.
Clarnell?
Yeah, extremely domineering, violent alcoholic, definitely made a habit of berating Ed in public whenever she could.
It sounds like the first name of like a commandant of a police department, or Clarnell, get in here. Like
it's a bizarre one.
She was a big woman as well. She topped out at 6 feet tall.
Yeah, she was a very big, domineering woman. Again, we're going to see this as a constant in many serial killer narratives. She owned Edmund Kemper's life as a child.
Yeah, at the age of 8, she disciplined him by forcing him to sleep in the 8 months. The only way he could get out was through a trap door that was underneath the family dinner table. So every night they would pull the dinner table out, let Edmund in, push it back over again, and of course he couldn't get back out until the next morning.
I'm just going to make the case that this sounds like an extremely fun little hiding hole.
It does.
It really sounds awesome. You
if I was
under the trap door, under the kitchen. I would be making little army plans.
Yeah, I'd be looking at it being like, it's like the Goonies.
It would be so exciting.
You just sell it to the kid like it's the Goonies, and then guess what? You don't have to see your kid for a good 8 to 10 hours a day. That's a tip for parents.
It's a tip for parents. Don't let him know you're putting him away because you're worried he's going to molest your daughters or his sisters.
Yeah, you tell him that it's a pirate room.
Exactly. Make it fun for the future serial killer.
So Ed's father, when Ed was 9, his father left, sick and tired of Clarnell. After his father left, Ed became a gigantic John Wayne
absolutely.
Very
Yeah,
Gacy-esque.
Yeah, that went all throughout his life. That's one of the ways he was able to ingratiate himself into the cop lifestyle at the jury room where
Because
he
would
hung out.
walk in and literally do like John Wayne impressions, and they just loved him.
Yeah.
He really got along with the cops.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
There's something
really
about a bunch of drunk, mustachioed cops that love a 6'9" woman murderer.
Doing John Wayne impressions. That time doesn't exist any longer. John Wayne was the only dude that was really around. That's what every single guy modeled themselves after.
What about Rock Hudson?
Well, you know.
So Ed's mother constantly compared him to his father. She fucking hated his father.
Have you found any details as to why she hated the father so much, or why she kept saying? Because that was the thing, is that she kept saying he was just like his father.
Well, one of the things about his mother is that she was diagnosed with borderline or they think that she had borderline personality
Because she became
disorder.
super paranoid about both of them, right?
Yeah, about both of them, about them leaving her. That's one of the signs of borderline personality disorder. She was married 3. She had
So romantic.
Yeah.
She had a problem with relationships. Let's just say that.
All right.
So at the age of 10, Ed already above average size. You know what that's like, Ben.
No, I don't. No.
Yeah, no, Ben is.
I am 5'7" inches tall.
What about Ben, the petite one Kissel?
Yes.
What would he know about above average size?
I know nothing about what Edmund Kemper's lifestyle was as a child.
His mother described him as, quote, a real weirdo.
It's because she was obsessed with the idea that he would come out of his room at night and molest his sisters. And this is why I'm saying, it's like, yes, I imagine it was partially unfounded because she was mentally ill and she looked at him and she kind of saw his father and she was like, he's going to molest. He's going to molest as soon as the chains comes off. But the problem is that I also think that I feel like the thinking someone's going to molest somebody street is a two-way street. And I think that a lot of the times is that it's probably knowing how Edmund turned out. Given a little bit too hard of a gander at his sisters, and his mother possibly saw it. Because we're going to look at this. To me, this is the key to Edmund Kemper's personality.
It really is.
Is that she put him away, saying that you're going to molest these kids, basically immediately taking the idea of women and these like and placing them on a pedestal above him. And one thing we know is you don't put that pussy on a pedestal.
No. You keep it attached to the
A taxi driver told me that.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Always take love advice from a taxi driver. That's a great idea.
Yep. Ed, who was, by the way, when he was a kid, he was nicknamed Guy, which is a real weird nickname for a big...
It's like calling somebody a local man.
Yeah. Guy.
Yeah. He was sent to permanently sleep, locked in the basement every single night. The only light was a bare bulb hanging from a wire.
Again, kind of cool. If you're a child, you can play with this.
Say I'm playing. If you just tell him again, we're playing the game called Russian Prisoner.
Mm-hmm. CIA interrogation room.
Yep. He allowed his hatred of women to fester and grow. He said he'd stare into the flames at the furnace for hours and later told FBI profilers this is where he saw the devil's face for the first time.
I remember I saw the devil's face for the first time, and I fell in love.
That's nice.
And I was just sitting there, and I saw it. I looked in the mirror, and I saw a flash of him, and he said, "Kill people at the mall." And I was just like, "You're funny."
Yeah, devil from 1988. No one goes to the mall anymore. Well, where do they go now? Well, they're mostly online. They do a lot of Amazon shopping.
So kill people in their homes?
Okay.
So she put him in that closet to toughen him up.
No, that's what well, that's another one of the conflicting things.
He said, but again, if you think he's going to be molesting your daughters, you probably shouldn't be toughing him up, right?
No, you want to weaken him. Yeah, you want to weaken the boy.
So shortly after he got exiled to the basement, he killed the family cat by burying it alive, and that was kind of a revenge, his first revenge against women, because he believed that the cat has switched its attention over to his sisters, and he said that he killed it to, quote, make it mine.
And this is where they should have called the cat daddy, Jackson Galaxy, to fix that cat's temperamental
Ed's not
problems.
a bad man. He's just misunderstood.
Very misunderstood. Or completely understood by his mother. We don't really know.
Yeah, so after burying the cat, Kemper dug it back up again, cut off the head, and mounted it on a stick in his room. And amazingly enough, he was able to talk his way out of it. He was able to lie and tell his mother that, no, I'm not sick, I'm not fucked up. I don't know what he told her exactly to get out of it, but it was the first lie of
probably
that
said it.
sort.
Yeah, I mean,
Mom, this is what I like to call a stinky lollipop.
yeah.
Yeah, this was his first. It was his first experience in hiding the darkness and being able to persuade people that no, there is not a necrophiliac murder behind this facade.
you gotta
This is
know
a
if
regular nice guy.
You got to know if you want to keep that head before you bury it. Or work to do, and that's really the
Pre-plan.
travesty here.
Pre-plan.
Yeah.
Also, I think that what we're looking at Edmund Kemper, of all of the killers we've covered, is probably the deepest sociopath of all of them.
Oh my God.
Where it's like, where John Wayne Gacy, you know,
Oh,
like,
I don't
because
know.
I look at him as like, John Wayne Gacy's the ultimate, to me, in cloaking his personality, right? Where it's like he was a politician, big public figure, but I think, and you know, and then secretly was a boy murderer and loved the suck. But I think that there is a difference. Like John Wayne Gacy got to do sort of play out his fake personality on a macro level. Like he got to do it in public, on TV, in front of people, like in board, like in front of like, you know, the boys at the fucking lodge and shit like that. Where Edmund Kemper's fake personality was right on top. And it was a personal thing because everyone just said the same thing. It was like, he's a nice guy. He was a sweet guy. And because that's his persona. He's this affable kind of guy, but he's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Well,
and,
yeah, sure.
And if you watch his interviews, anytime they ask him a question, there is an answer.
No, but
there's no thinking. There is no remorse. There's nothing there. There is just there's not remorse. There's not like I don't think he ever says like I shouldn't have done this. It's more like I did a horrible thing.
yes.
Like he doesn't say, he rarely says I shouldn't have done this. So Kemper, not unlike Dahmer, who, if we remember, played Infinity Land.
Yeah.
Kemper also, he had a weird, bizarre childhood game. His favorite one was Gas Chamber.
Ooh.
Yeah, his sister would tie him up and throw an imaginary switch, and then Ed would tumble to the floor and pretend to die of gas.
It's kind of a funny one.
It is fun,
funny,
actually.
yeah.
That
Jackie
would
and I
kinda
used to
work.
play animals. we pretend to be different animals.
Yeah, that's a normal one. That's a normal one.
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
kind of relate to the animals, and you don't kill the cat.
And then
You don't-
Pa would come.
No.
And Pa said, which one of y'all's the prairie dog?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
And then-
not me again, Daddy. Not me again.
Right. So you're making light of a terrible situation. I'm happy you got through it, Henry.
So at age 7, he would sneak out with his father's bayonet and go to his second grade teacher's house and watch her through the windows. And he would fantasize, even at this young age, he said he would fantasize about killing her and having sex with her corpse. He said, I knew long before I started killing that I was going to be killing.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, but that's a normal cycle. I went through a whole thing. It's like you couldn't even keep a pitchfork around me because I'd take the pitchfork out and I'd go stare at the gym teacher's house. But it was mostly just because I was sick of climbing that fucking rope.
Oh, I hated the rope. The rope was terrible. So he had a real calling.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
from a very young age. It's like how I always knew I wanted to be in radio.
If he wasn't too big for the Navy, he could have been a good Navyman.
God, if
Sorry.
only we could have fit him in a submarine.
Ah.
Oh, my God. So, but when his sister teased him about wanting to kiss a teacher of his, and this actually comes from his sister's testimony on the stand, he said, if I kissed her, I'd have to kill her first. This is at age 7. So this guy had these necrophiliac tendencies from a very young age.
Yeah, but kids are weird.
Kids are super weird.
But that's a little bit stranger than usual. Like usually, kids are just like, I wouldn't kiss her. I don't want to get cooties, you know. And then
Yeah.
he's just like, I'll only kiss her after I murder her.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that's
that's
different.
possible. Or like when kids see ghosts and shit like that.
Well,
That's what's scary when they're like,
Yes.
there's a man in the corner. He's got a top hat and he says, end it, mommy.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, it's
Talking
weird.
about slavery, huh? Isn't that something? The Emancipation Proclamation's coming right from your closet, huh?
So 13, Ed ran away from home, and they were living in Helena, Montana at this point, and he made it
nice place.
super awful place. Helena, Montana. God damn.
Helena, Montana?
Yeah.
Sounds like a fatter
Fatter Miley Cyrus.
I'm Helena, Montana. I'm here for
Helena, Montana. No one wants to know my real identity.
Okay, you have a neck beard. We're looking for a 13-year-old girl.
Can I just pretend? Can I just act it?
He ran from Helena, Montana. He made it to Los Angeles, where his father was living.
Yeah, because he said, I'm gonna go live with Daddy now.
Yeah, I'm going to go live with Daddy, because Ed believed that they were very close.
He loved his father,
Yeah.
and he idolized his father growing up.
Sad.
Father did not return the sentiment.
No, his ex-wife, his new wife, actually said, please send Eddie away. He gives me migraines.
Yeah, his very presence gave his stepmom migraines.
I mean, he's a huge kind of tartar boy who's like not hers. I would assume that his own mother didn't want him. Why would this other lady want him?
Because at this point, he's probably like 6'4". He's a big fucking bungle butt is what he even calls himself.
No.
A bumblebutt.
When he said he's talking about talking to girls, he said, I talk to girls. I was a real bumblebutt.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was. He's a bumblebutt, and so he's kind of a pain he has to be around. And he's probably knocking over your glass figurines.
Accidentally,
and walking around.
though.
Yeah, because he's so big, waddling his big fucking fat ass all over the fucking
I'm going to
kitchen.
defend him. We live in a world that is not equipped to handle the size of a man who is
ripping cabinet doors off,
That is the-
accidentally knocking over the
Stop
refrigerator.
going to shoddy craftsmanship. It's got to be able to handle a strong pull.
But this is the problem. If it's got to be a specialty house to house your fucking buffalo-like body.
But why does it have to be a specialty house and not just a house?
Because the rest of us are normal size.
Yeah, the vast majority of people. What about all of the little people, Ben? What about them?
What about them?
He's talking about
They're doing great.
He's talking about the grumpy gnomes. That's what I like to call them, and I've heard they actually prefer that term.
Yes.
Grumpies.
Yeah, grumpies are kind of funny, though. Grumpies.
So after he was sent back home, in retaliation, he killed another family cat. This time, he got a little more gruesome with it. He cut off the top of its skull with the machete and exposed the brains, kept the dismembered body in his closet until his mother found the cat parts.
Yeah, it got to stink a little bit.
Yeah,
It's gotta be a little smelly.
And I heard a psychiatrist, one of these, talking about why a lot of serial killers, especially serial killers who kill women, kill cats as kids.
Oh, because
Specifically
symbolically.
cats. Yes, symbolically, the cat is a feminine animal.
Yeah, so it's a slinky thing, and also because I'll also put it this way, especially in Kemper's case, is that they are selective with their attention. And they are very, and there's something about a, like, maybe if Dahmer had a dog, maybe he would have been fine, because a dog's always happy to see you, even if you beat the fuck out of it. A cat, that's hard to get. Even me, and I'm sweet to cats. I nuzzle, and I'll sit on my lap, and I give them treats, and I kiss them, and I smell their paws, and I play with their tails and stuff like that, and even they'll ignore me or run away from me.
Sounds like you terrorize them, and they hate being around you, and you try to bribe them so you can pull their tail.
So shortly after the second cat incident, Ed was sent off to live with his paternal grandparents.
Man, they are passing this buck.
Yeah.
My God.
Like hardcore.
Yeah.
It's hard to have a bumblebutt in the house.
Oh,
Though his grandparents were named Edmund and Maud Kemper.
Ooh, solid people of the earth.
Yeah, very solid people.
Solid means fat.
yeah, they got to be. It's a big family. The whole family's going to be a little hefty.
Yeah, and it was Ed's father who actually sent him to live with his parents, but his mother, who actually was starting to get a pretty good insight into him, she called him up and she said, "You might wake up one day and find they've been killed."
And the way, oh God, good Lord, the huge phones they must have had in both houses.
Oh, yeah.
Comically large phones.
Got to. They got to communicate.
Yeah, and he was, as soon as he got there, he was given a .22 cal rifle. A lot of young kids were. Ed was in the Boy Scouts.
Right.
And in fact, that's where he learned how to use a knife and to, hide grave sites and things like that.
Yeah, the Boy Scouts taught a lot of people how to become future killers.
Oh,
that
yeah.
That was the intention, I suppose.
Yeah,
They were
I mean,
supposed to-
Hitler created the idea of the Boy Scouts just
Right.
to make stronger soldiers for the fatherland. So technically, we're wasting all these soldiers we're building with, I know, campfire shit that they can set, and selling the cookies if they're a girl one. It's crazy out there how many soldiers we're just letting wither on the vine.
Yep. Yeah, I guess we want more of them? Is that the thing?
But, when they found out that he continued his practice of killing domesticated animals and pets, the gun was taken away. But this being a ranch, they still kept plenty of guns around.
And that's
house.
the thing.
Right.
Ed's grandmother kept a gigantic 45 in her. I guess it's like her underwear drawer somewhere in her clothes.
In
In
her
her dresser.
underwear? In her underwear
but in
drawer?
her dresser, she
Yeah,
kept it one, and she would come out and literally see him just playing with it.
Yeah.
Like he'd have this gun and be like,
Right.
making fucking sauce with it and like cooking eggs with it and shit like that. And so it got to a point where she'd have to take it with her places, and Kemper would say he'd watch her leave with her purse jam packed, and he's like, "What's in your purse, Grandma?" She's like, "Oh, nothing, Ed. Nothing. Just going. Looks like you got your gun in there, Grandma." She's like, "No. Just gonna go to the store." And then she goes to the store, and then he'd go look for the gun, and she's like, "And would you believe it? She took her gun like she didn't trust me with it."
I can't believe it.
And that's literally in the interview hours after he confessed to all the murders.
Yeah.
So he's literally just being like, "And you believe she'd take the gun, like, from me?"
That's unbelievable, Ed.
Yeah. And in August of 1963, shot his grandmother in the back of the head as she was sitting at the table reviewing a children's story she had just written.
Oh, she wrote it?
Yeah,
it was
she
all
wrote it.
about, you
Was
know,
it
when
called
your
the mouse and the brain splatters?
Yeah, when your grandson comes from behind you and blows your brains out, and then he fucking blew her brains out.
Fired 2 more shots into her back and then stabbed her. But, some people say 3 times seems to be the consensus of how many times he stabbed her in the back.
So he shot her thrice and stabbed her thrice.
And
That's
then when
right.
his grandfather came home, he fucking shot his because you're gonna also see this a lot, where he's like, I wanted to save him the sight of my dead grandmother.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice, Ad.
But he says this all the time. It's a pretending thing. It's a distancing thing. He says this all the same thing with the girls, where he was like, when the first double murder he does, and he separates them, and he's like basically just being like, because I wanted to be nice to the nice blonde one that was sitting in the front with me, and I wanted to save her the sight of watching her best friend get murdered. And it's a distancing, and it shows how much of a sociopath he is, because he thinks by saying that he's saying that for our benefit, not his. He's saying that so he feels better in
It's
the moment.
Closest thing he can come to compassion.
Yes, and because he says here, when he asks why he shot his grandmother, he says, "I just wondered what it felt like to shoot Grandma." But that could also have been a part of the fact that a lot of his stories were trying to get an insanity plea going for himself, and then because in another interview he says he shot his grandmother because she reminded him so much of his mother.
Yeah, because she was pretty domineering as well. With Ed Sr. married Clarnell in the first place.
Well,
a lot of
does
times
seem-
men marry their mothers.
It does seem like Ed needed some structure. So I might say I'm going to err on the side of the women in both of these cases, because it seems like Edmund Kemper was a sociopath.
He needed a tiger mom.
Yes, he did.
Well, he was declared a paranoid schizophrenic by a court. He was 15 at the time and sent to Atascadero State Hospital in the criminally insane unit. There, California Youth Authority psychiatrists and social workers strongly disagreed with the psychiatrist's diagnosis. They said, no, he is not a paranoid schizophrenic. He's a fucking sociopath.
Yeah, he's he's an empty vessel.
Yeah,
and you're gonna watch him play this system in this hospital.
Oh my God. Yeah, they said he showed, quote, no flight of ideas, no interference with thought, no expression of delusions or hallucinations, and no evidence of bizarre thinking. He was diagnosed as having personality trait disturbance, passive-aggressive type.
All right. So
Interesting. Into aggression, I guess. And he was 17 at this point, right? Or like 16?
15.
Okay, cool.
15 when he killed him, 16 by the time he got to Atascadero.
you described every comedian I know. He's just a young, up-and-coming. If there was just some more open mics around, he could have been spinning some wonderful jokes at random saloons.
He was just ashamed. It's just too tall to be on TV.
I know that feeling. Thanks, Hollywood. Sorry, I'm not a pedophile. I'm not into your circle.
tiny. All
Yeah.
actors are so tiny.
But they look so fat on screen, and then you meet them in real life, and they're so cute and tiny and small.
So he started working at this mental hospital, and he managed to worm his way again using his. This is where you're going to see it. He's so affable and friendly and easy to like as a guy. He became immediate best friends with a psychologist.
Well, the reason why he was able to ingratiate himself with the psychologist, much like he would with the cops later, Atascadero had 1,600 patients. Dozens of them were murderers. Over 800 were rapists. And at only 10.
Yes, and so they're
Kemper's-
looking.
Yeah, he's not the worst one there by any means.
But
God,
they're
no.
also looking for allies.
Yeah.
They want allies because everybody does. Because even in the end, it's like in prison, too. It's like prison guards will match up with prisoners and befriend them to basically find out if shit's going on the inside. You get advanced warning of stuff. But so when they befriended each other, and again, I mean, he's 15. He seems like, that's what he said. It just seemed like he was just a lost, friendly kid.
And by the way, his IQ tested at 140.
Yes.
Near genius level.
And so while he was working with the psychologist, basically made him sort of like his little assistant. He had access to hundreds of case studies, which went into grisly detail about like crimes and rape. Like basically, he figured out how to use and also like results of psychology tests and stuff like that.
Yeah, he learned all the methods. He learned how these, and most importantly, he learned how these guys got caught. And the most important lesson that he learned from these goes is that you do not leave any witnesses when you rape someone. That's how all of these. You don't leave any witnesses.
You would think that's 101.
And you don't leave any. And you don't leave any physical evidence.
Oh, I thought Rape 101. I mean, the first lesson, I think, if I were to teach a class called Rape 101, I'd be like, don't do it, guys.
Well,
that would be
Of
day
course.
1. And day 2.
I tricked you coming in here. Don't
do it. Don't do it. But he also say, I mean, he was also just jerking off to all the pictures of raped women and all the people telling about what they raped and what they did when they raped, and he was just jerking off, having a great time.
And you saw this also with Richard Ramirez. This is a very important time in the development of your sexuality.
Yes.
And both of these guys, their sexuality got tied up with violence and rape at a very young age.
Because he started realizing, because he felt so awkward about himself personally, that I feel like he got an idea at an early age of like, if I want it, I got it.
Yeah, exactly. And about his work ethic, the psychiatrist that he befriended, he wrote, he was a very good worker, and this is not typical of a sociopath. He really took pride in his work.
Yeah, because his work was thumbing through grotesque pictures of raped women that he was coming to.
Yeah, he was having
it was his dream job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he would help administer tests to other prisoners, and in the process of administering these tests to him, he got an extremely clear idea of what psychiatrists considered insane and sane. So he was able to play the system to such a way where by the time he was 21, only did 5 years in this hospital for killing both of his grandparents.
Right.
By the time he was 21, he had convinced these psychiatrists that he was ready to go out back into the outside world.
They thought he was cured.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's always good to send him out there just as soon as they can start drinking hard. You know, that's great. That's going to be perfect for the sociopath.
And we're going to see a time now. So now that he's out of jail and he's 21, we're going to basically put a Manson is that in those 5 years he was gone, when he comes out on the other side, the hippie movement's now going on.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And so he missed the whole beginning.
Yeah, and he missed his adolescence completely. From 16 to 21, the only people he hung out with were middle-aged men and rapists.
Right. I mean, but definitely a better environment than the one that he was in previously, it sounds like.
Well,
I don't know, though.
And speaking of that, when he was released, psychiatrists, all of them, strongly recommended that he not live with his mother.
And they sent him straight to his mother.
They sent straight. They recommended like put him in a halfway house.
I thought they recommended that he go play basketball.
Oh.
Hey, Edmund, do you play basketball? No, I am a serial killer.
You know what's
okay.
so funny? I was in a Target the other day, and this janitor was there, was cleaning the floor, and he said to me, he's like, man, if I was your height, I'd be playing basketball, to Kissel while I was standing next to him. Yeah, that's a great bit. Ben Kissel does a stand-up bit.
A stand-up comedy bit. Stand-up comedy bit.
So the two, after Ed moved back in with his mother, the two moved to Santa Cruz, where Clarnell, now with the last name Strandberg.
Oh, yeah.
Clarnell Strandberg, she became an administrative assistant at the University of California.
And this is going to be his gateway drug.
Yeah.
To all of these poor women.
Now, this is a very interesting fact right here, is that his mother was extremely popular and very helpful at her job on campus.
Yeah,
everybody loved her.
That's how it always is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that his mother wasn't crazy. She nailed it.
I think
he's a sociopath.
She saw it when he was a baby. It was like literally a thing where she saw him. He was always weird. He was always a little fucked up, and she was looking at him and just being like, "I must kill it."
You send them to a therapist.
Yes.
Well,
you don't send them to the basement.
It doesn't matter. Either way, she harvested this demon creature inside of her womb and then birthed them up.
Disgusting.
So she was divorced for the third time, and she blamed Ed for all of it. She said, "Because of you, my murderous son, I haven't had sex with a man in 5 years."
Oh, it's because your bush is all hairy and it smells like random tuna.
Yeah, it's because you look like if Hakeem Olajuwon had sex with the Wicked Witch.
Come on. Yeah, don't blame Ed on the fact he can't get any dong.
Yeah, you're a 6-foot-tall monster woman.
So Kemper got a job with the California Highway Department, moved to a tiny little apartment of his own, but couldn't escape his mother. His mother would constantly call him. She dropped that by the apartment unannounced.
What is wrong with this woman?
She's trying to make sure he's not raping anybody.
Well, I just feel like if you don't like your son, leave him alone.
I don't know. I think I'm starting to completely turn. I used to blame the mother, but now I just think she is trying to stop a massacre from happening.
Now I'm blaming the mother. You got to leave this kid alone.
So Kemper, what he really wanted to be a cop.
Of course
they
he did.
all want to be cops.
He tried to get a job with the California Highway Patrol, but he was
Not the Monster Squad. He has bolts on the side of his neck. The guy looks like Frankenstein. There's no way.
You mean to tell me? I think cops should be 6'9", 300 pounds.
Well, he wanted to be a chip. He wanted to be the guy on the motorcycle.
That's a problem. He looked like a bear on a motorcycle.
Yeah,
he looked like a circus act. Him driving past, they'd be like, "Look at this guy."
I agree. Big cops don't shoot. We can just grab them. You just grab people and hold on to them.
Yeah, they swing arms like Andre the Giant from The Princess Bride.
Yeah, that would be amazing if someone just knocks on the top of your car and you're just like, oh, and then you're just like looking at his dick and, officer, where are you? And he's way up there. Isn't that cute?
Because of how tall he is?
Because of how tall he is. Did he play basketball?
You lived a life
I'm
of pain,
killer.
Kissel. I can hear it.
No, I didn't.
So he...
I didn't. I don't do nothing.
So instead, since he couldn't join the Highway Patrol, this is when he starts hanging out with cops.
You know what? This is so... it's a little bit different, but my uncle was too fat for the Army. I swear to God. I just remember, super sad, but he loved the Army. And then he became a police officer because he was only 6'3", and they let him in.
Yeah, exactly.
And
you can't be too fat to be a cop.
No. That was a requirement.
Yeah, you can be too tall, but you can't be too fat.
Yes.
Interesting.
But yeah, he was too fat for the Army. I'll never forget when he got back that day. He was crying. But I was just like, "You're fat. You are very fat, Uncle Grant. That's who I'm named after."
Yeah. They would literally just use you as a body shield.
I don't know why you wanted to go so bad.
So he started going to this place called the Jury Room.
Which is weird that it's a cop bar because the one thing cops hate to do is go to fucking court.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Like jurors.
Yeah, it's the worst thing for him. And he was able to go here. He was able to sneak his way into the cop circle because he was this big, genial guy. He was just seen as like a harmless eccentric. They called him a cop groupie.
Yeah, they call it because that happens a lot. And again, it's like Charles Manson, the music scene, where it's just like a guy, a guy in the background who's just like, "You guys want to hear Jumpin' Jack Flash on the jukebox again?" Times, but it's kind of my favorite.
It is a fun one, but this is totally different than Manson because Manson was like, "Fuck the pigs," he was total countercultural, and this is like the hippie movement, and where this is like the 70s now.
Yeah,
and he was just like, "I'm gonna start loving the cops."
He was
at their peak of when everybody hates him.
He was very conservative because he was more comfortable in the conservative world because he was so uncomfortable with himself.
Well, and it's because also you have that same thing with Ted Bundy. He's a good old Republican boy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's you have the facade. That's what Republicans, every time they have a sex scandal, it's so much more depraved than anybody else.
So much
depraved.
It's just obvious.
Yeah.
It's just anybody who wears a suit for a living is getting his dick sucked by a boy somewhere.
I mean...
That's how that shit goes.
It's possible. I don't know.
Any man you see who gets his shoes polished at the airport has had sex with a dead woman.
Well, you gotta get the evidence off of him, I guess.
Oh, here's something real cute. One police officer even gave him a police academy trainee's badge and a little identification card so he could pretend.
I am 22 years old. I'm 22 years